What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with recent CGC 9.8 pickups for my collection, probably over the last 3 to 4 months or so. And the theme of this video is secondary keys. What are secondary keys that you ask? Well, first appearance comics, where the character first appears in comics, usually or almost always command the highest prices. And there are other ways to collect that are more budget friendly, that include a number of different themes that I call secondary key issues. Everything from first comic book cover appearances, to first cameos, to origin stories, to first solo series, or key events, or first mentions, first time somebody meets another character or fights another character. All of those are examples of secondary key issues. And I'm going to go through some examples for all of those types of books in this video. And all of these, as I mentioned, I picked up in the last few months or so, probably the last 3 or 4 months. The first one is one that we've talked about on the channel at length, and that is Star Wars Darth Vader number 20. This just came out in April of 2022. Now, what is the secondary key issue for this? Well, this is the first comic book cover appearance of The Mandalorian and Grogu. And this is the Chris Sprouse 50th anniversary Lucasfilm variant cover. There is a second printing for this with a silver border with his Beskar armor. But this will go down in history as The Mandalorian and Grogu's first comic book cover appearance. And, you know, there are so many of these. There are a lot of 9.8s on these, and right now they're pretty inexpensive. But I think that if you're a serious Star Wars collector for comic books, this is just one to have in your collection. You know, just to have it. You know, I think that it's an important piece of history to have his first cover appearance. Now, obviously, his first true interior comic book appearance will be next month in The Mandalorian Season 1 Adaptation Issue 1. That's not come out yet, but that will go down as his first true interior comic book appearance. But this one, you know, the cover's not related at all to the Darth Vader issue that's inside. But I just thought it was kind of an important book to have in my collection, a secondary key, so to speak. And they're not that expensive. You can get them in auctions on eBay very easily for between $75 and about $100 or so. And the second print's even cheaper. So if that's a book you want to have and just hold on to and just have a piece of collecting history, this is a good book for that. Here are 2 more examples of secondary keys, and this is a fairly new book. This is Star Wars The High Republic issue number 12. These were released in February of this year, so these are kind of speculative, so just keep that in mind. The High Republic universe has not been 100% confirmed for Disney+, but I'm almost positive it's coming sometime in the next couple of years. And obviously, High Republic number 1 has a number of first appearances, and those command the highest prices. Well, the High Republic number 12 is the first cameo appearance of a villain called the Leveler. And it's kind of a force-sensitive monster, so to speak, that sucks the life out of Jedi. And in the novels, the Leveler is responsible for killing a number of different kind of secondary Jedi. And this book will go down as his first cameo appearance. And I've got 2 different cover variations here. We've got the standard cover and then the variant edition. I like both of them. And these are not expensive either. You can probably pick these up for $50 to $75 in auctions on eBay. But this is a great cover that has Lorna D holding a lightsaber. Lorna D is kind of a right-hand henchwoman for the main villain, Marchion Ro. But what a killer cover. Absolutely killer. I pre-ordered this one in a 9.8 from beachbumcomics.com. They do a pretty good job. Stay away from hotshotcomics.com for any CGC 9.8 pre-orders. Do not buy from them. They're terrible. But Beach Bum Comics does a great job. Here is the variant edition that shows Lorna D fighting Avar Kriss. So, again, not a particularly expensive book, highly speculative in nature, but the Leveler most likely will have a very key role in whatever content comes out from Disney for the High Republic universe. So I thought, why not go ahead and get those now? I don't like this cover nearly as much as this one. This cover with Lorna D is just absolutely stunning, and I'm so glad to have that one in my collection. Another example of a secondary key would be an origin story. And so this is Terra Blacktop Bill Special. This is a one-shot that came out, and it's related to the Terra comic book series. It's a fairly new series, and again, this book came out in January of 2022, so it's again very speculative, but I really like the series, and it's already been optioned by Netflix, so I expect there to be a series down the line. And this one-shot comic is the origin story for Blacktop Bill, who's like the main villain within the Terra comic series. And this is the Bry's Comic Edition exclusive Virgin cover. And this is a cover by Tyler Kirkham, a fairly well-known artist. And this is autographed, signed by Tyler Kirkham. This is one of 400 printed, as you can see here with the certificate. This is number 313 of 400. So, you know, again, I figured if I'm going to get a cover for this book, it might as well be one of the more exclusive covers, and to get one that's autographed by the cover artist is pretty cool. But this is, again, Terra Blacktop Special. This is a one-shot that came out in January of 2022. Here are another couple of examples, non-Star Wars, of secondary keys. The first one is Mark Spector Moon Knight, issue number 55. This book is from 1993. And another kind of theme that a lot of comic book collectors go for are the first cover art for important artists. And this is the first published Stephen Platt art. And it's just a cover that I've always loved. And I knew I was going to get it eventually. It just was a matter of timing and finding the right price. But this is Mark Spector, Moon Knight 55, and the very first published cover art for Stephen Platt. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But this has always been kind of a key issue for within this series of Mark Spector Moon Knight. But I just love this cover, and it's been homaged by a couple of artists here recently. But what an awesome cover. And then next, this is an interesting one. And, you know, going to the secondary keys theme again, oftentimes with key events, they are kind of overlooked. And this is a book that I think is overlooked that is pretty important. And that's Spectacular Spider-Man issue 110. What an awesome cover that shows Spider-Man punching Daredevil through a glass window. It's just an awesome cover. This is from 1986, and what's important about this book is that this is when Daredevil reveals his secret identity to Spider-Man. So he reveals that he's Matt Murdock to Spider-Man for the first time in this comic. And so this would be an example of a secondary key for key events. So this is kind of a key event, and it's a fantastic cover, just absolutely gorgeous, a flawless book. And this one is actually one of only 25 9.8s on the census. So it wasn't that expensive either, but for a 1986 book with a key event, and to have one of 25 that exist on the CGC census, I just had to buy it. And it's just an awesome addition to my Spider-Man collection. Another example of a secondary key that I mentioned at the beginning of this video is this first solo series for a key character. And this is a book I've mentioned many times on the channel. That's Dr. Aphra, issue number 1 from 2017. This is the first comic book with Dr. Aphra's first solo series. So it's a fantastic cover, and I've been meaning to get it for a while because, you know, her first appearance comic is Darth Vader number 3 from, I believe, 2015. And that book goes for $350 to $400. I have the first and second print in my collection. And I just thought this would be a nice, natural kind of fit for my collection. And I've just been putting it off and putting it off. And it got up to like $200 and then $250. And I was like, well, why would you spend $250 on this book when you can get our first appearance comic for $350 to $400? And it's a much better book. Well, finally, this book did come down in price after the Book of Boba Fett came and went, and Black Chrysanthemum obviously is closely aligned with Dr. Aphra, as you see on the cover here. But finally, mercifully, this book came down, and I paid, you know, $170 for it, and you can probably get it for even cheaper in an auction. But it's a fantastic cover, and it's her first solo comic, and it's got the murder droids there, BT-1 and 000, as well as Black Chrysanthemum. And then, of course, Dr. Aphra is there on the cover. But again, you know, assuming the price is right, if you don't want to spend the money for her first appearance comic, then look at Dr. Aphra number 1 from 2017. There are several volumes for Dr. Aphra, so make sure you get the one from 2017. There are several different covers as well. This is the standard cover A, and it goes up from there. But This is a great book, and certainly if you are a Dr. Aphra fan like I am, and I fully expect her to have her own series one day, this book is a no-brainer if you can pick it up for 150 to, anywhere from 150 to about 200 or so. Speaking of secondary keys, this is a great example of a first meeting secondary key that is often overlooked by collectors, and there are not many of these on the census. This is Punisher Annual number 2 from 1989. It's just an interesting cover. It kind of looks like they're doing a dance of death. And you got Moon Knight with the Punisher there, and this will go down as the first meeting and fight between Moon Knight and the Punisher. And so when I learned about this book, I tend to collect first meetings and first fight books. I've got a lot of them for Wolverine, and now for Moon Knight, I've got the Moon Knight's first meeting with Doctor Strange, and now I've got this one, which is his first meeting with the Punisher. And this is one of, you'll have to bear with me while I look it up, this is one of 23 9.8s on the census. So it's not a very heavily printed book because it is an annual, and there are not many of these in a 9.8 grade, but that's just another way to collect. It's kind of a cool theme that I've got going for my collection, with first meetings, first fights, first team-ups, first team appearances, those kinds of things. But this is a good example of one that is often overlooked by collectors. This is a book that many of you may recognize. I had this in a what to buy on eBay video, and I couldn't pass it up. I decided to buy it myself. That is Star Wars TIE Fighter issue number 1 from 2019. And this kind of goes against the trend of the theme of the video, because this is a first appearance comic for a number of characters. And this is the comic book tie-in for the Alphabet Squadron trilogy of novels written by Alexander Freed. If you haven't read that trilogy, it's a great trilogy. It covers Operation Cinder, which is kind of post-Emperor Palpatine's death. He initiates this program that enlists a bunch of loyal Imperials to basically destroy planets. And TIE Fighter issue number 1 is the first team appearance of Shadow Wing, or Shadow Squadron. I think it's Shadow Wing. And they are basically an elite group of TIE Fighter pilots that are charged with destroying planets based on the dead Emperor's guidelines. And it's also the first appearance of Yarica Quell. She's the main hero within the novels. And it's also the first appearance of Shakara Nares. Her nickname is Grandmother. She's one of the leaders of the remnant Imperial forces after their defeat at Endor. So it's an interesting book. This is obviously just an incredible cover. I mean, look at this cover. You can see the X-Wing in the eye lenses on the helmet of the TIE Fighter. I mean, look how awesome that cover is. Absolutely fantastic. So this one has 6 first appearances. So this is a secondary key in my mind because it's highly speculative. There's not really any kind of rumors for the Alphabet Squadron trilogy coming to life on Disney+. Most people haven't even read the trilogy. And I would say that if you haven't, you should definitely read it if you like Star Wars novels. But Operation Cinder, if you'll remember, was mentioned in The Mandalorian Season 2 during the Mandalorians' kind of incursion into that Imperial base where they wore the disguises. So they have made Operation Cinder official canon within, the modern Star Wars era. And so I could see eventually there being an Operation Cinder related movie or TV show, because it's a good idea for episodic content, especially because you can go from planet to planet to planet, and each episode or every 2 episodes would be tied to what particular planet the Imperials are trying to attack and which, the Alphabet Squadron's trying to thwart them. So anyway, it's got 6 first appearances as well as the first team appearance. It was $100 shipped, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take it, because once I looked it up on the census, it's 1 of 4. This is only 1 of 4 CGC 9.8s, possibly because it's low printed, possibly because people just haven't bothered to send it in yet for grading. But to get 1 of 4 books that has 6 first appearances, it's fairly low risk for me, and the cover is just unbelievable. It's just one of the most gorgeous covers. So I couldn't pass it up, and I'm sorry I didn't let it sit on after the what to buy video, but I fell in love with it and I just had to have it. Next up, I've got another comic to go with the 2 that are already in my collection, and another example of a secondary key within the first meeting or first fight kind of universe. And I found this book on eBay and I did some research on it, and I found out it's kind of a low CGC census number. So I'll show you that in a second. But first, this is Marvel Comics Presents issue number 117. That's the first fight between Wolverine and Venom. A really awesome cover, I believe by Sam Keith, I believe is who did the cover on that one. And then this one is Iron Man 305. That is the fight between the Hulk and Iron Man while wearing his Hulkbuster armor. The Hulkbuster armor actually makes its first appearance in 304, the issue before this one. But this is a much better cover in my opinion, and there's not that many of them in the 9.8, and it's not that expensive either, so it also fits within the budget theme. And I've got another one that just arrived, and it is awesome, and it fits kind of right between these two books, and that is Iron Man 302. This is from March of 1994, and what an awesome cover. Look at this cover. This is the first fight in comics between Iron Man and Venom. And they haven't met yet, obviously. Maybe they'll meet, in the MCU at some point, but look at that awesome cover. That is incredible. So this is a really nice kind of wedge between my Venom and Wolverine book, and so now we got Venom meeting Wolverine, we've got Venom meeting Iron Man, and then we got Iron Man meeting the Hulk in his Hulkbuster armor. So it was just a nice compliment, and I try to kind of put some thought into new editions now just because of space as to what might be a good fit. And this one is only one of 23 9.8s on the census, so it's not that easy to find this one in a 9.8 grade, and it looks fantastic having it with my Marvel Comics Presents 117 and Iron Man 305. We're going to finish off with some absolutely smoking vintage Star Wars comics in a second. But before I do that, I wanted to show this one. This was an interesting pickup. This is from August of 1980, and this is Batman 326. And this kind of fits in with the theme of secondary keys. This is the first mention of Arkham Asylum in comics. So, but previous to this, in other issues of Batman in the 1970s, I guess, they had called Arkham Asylum Arkham Hospital. But if you're a Batman fan, then you know that Arkham Asylum is almost ubiquitous with Batman. And I played the video games on the Xbox 360, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight. I played the heck out of them, and I just really enjoyed them. And, when I think of Batman and I think of the villains being locked away, I think of Arkham Asylum. So is this book ever going to, shoot up in value? No, probably not. It's really just a first mention type of book. But it's a nice piece of collecting history because this is the first time in comics where they finally referred to Arkham Asylum by its proper name instead of just Arkham Hospital. So very cool to kind of have that, and just kind of a nice piece of Batman memorabilia to kind of add to my collection. Now let's finish off the video with some beautiful vintage original run Marvel Star Wars comics. And to finally finish this video off, we are going to go out with a bang. I've got some vintage original Marvel comics from the original Star Wars run I wanted to show you. This one you've already seen. This is Star Wars number 35 from May of 1980. It's a fantastic cover, and this is the first face-to-face meeting of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. It's got him playing like a chessboard. Darth Vader plays a game of death against the Star Warriors, Dark Lord's Gambit. Absolutely amazing cover art. And this is one of 57 9.8s on the census. And to have a piece of collecting history where it's the first face-to-face meeting of Luke and Darth Vader in comics, I mean, it's just a piece of collecting history. So I bought another one. And so here is the second one. I just got this one in yesterday, and it's just another beautiful example of this book. I've got a fair deal on this one. I actually got this one for less than I got this one for. This one was an eBay purchase. This one was a comic website auction, and I got this one for $86 less than what I paid for the first one. So I was really, really happy to get a second copy. But so these are two of the 57 9.8s that exist for this book, and it's such a beautiful cover that I had to get it. I had to absolutely have it. Now, again, so that falls within the theme of first face-to-face meetings, first key events, and to go back to Dr. Aphra number 1, the first solo type of event. And this is another recent pickup. This is Star Wars number 21 from March of 1979. So this is a very desirable one. And this is the first original Darth Vader story. So Shadow of a Dark Lord. It's very reminiscent of 35. It's got the heroes. It's got him kind of raising his fists just like in 35. And it's just a perfect addition, a perfect complement to my 2 copies of Star Wars 35. So again, it's a secondary key. I can't afford personally Star Wars number 1 with the first appearance of all the main heroes and Darth Vader. That's, $5,000 plus at a 9.8. But these are a little bit more affordable. They're certainly not inexpensive. I mean, these were very expensive books relative to some of the other ones I've already shown you. But look how amazing these look. I mean, they just look so good together. And so we got the first original Darth Vader solo story in Star Wars number 21. And then Star Wars 35 will go down as the first face-to-face meeting of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in comics. So I hope you enjoyed this look at secondary keys. I hope that it gave you some ideas for your collecting of comics, and staying within a little bit tighter budget than maybe first appearance comics are. There's lots of good options out there. You just got to do the research. KeyCollectorComics.com is a great website to use for learning more about what are key issues and things like that. And that's a website I really rely on for finding some of these secondary keys that have low CGC 9.8 census information. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look. Thanks so much for watching, and I put together a slideshow at the end with all of these comics so you can take a closer look. I'll be back soon.